Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we'll be talking about a strong and very potent storm that will be taking shape across the country into this upcoming week. Now this thing will be a true, almost has a lot of characteristics of a winter storm. Now I mean, look at the shape of this thing right now as I show. If this was any colder during the winter, all of this would be snow. Obviously it's not. There will be some snow in the mountains, but this thing will be mainly a rain event and severe weather event producer. However, it will have strong winds and affect the climate of the United States and southeastern Canada, particularly with a lot of cold air and prolonged periods of cloudiness and whatnot, and obviously potential for flooding, especially in areas that have already seen a lot of rain. And this thing will be tracking from coast to coast. It starts across the west and ends across the east. So this thing's a multi-day thing. Almost feels like if I'm tracking a winter storm, but it is just a fall system. Again, no snow with this one, but maybe it's a sign of things are to come into late October. The pattern does seem to be stay active. We'll have to wait and see, but it's definitely a very, very impressive system for how early in the season it is. And these systems usually struggle to get this well put together earlier on in the year. So that's definitely something I wanted to show you. Now, again, the details of this thing are still very, very uncertain, but if you are traveling and you live anywhere across the central kind of United States from coast to coast, you should probably pay attention to this because it will impact you. Now, obviously, as if you remember, I made another video. I haven't really made any update videos on it. I was very busy, but notice we have this first one, right? And it's currently developing across the United States. So I kind of want to talk about this one first. If you want to just see the new storm, you could skip ahead in time. And I want to show you the HER model. So this is the system that's going on right now. Wrong region. I want to click on the eastern United States, and you can see it's the tropical kind of, I guess, enhanced system. It's not a tropical storm, obviously, but it is like a system that has a lot of moisture. It's wheeling all the way into the U.S. here, and you can see it's bringing a lot of rain. So the Northeast has been already wet. There's some lake effect thunderstorms coming off the lakes, which is also interesting. And notice that this pivots into some cool air, and this produces quite a bit of snow for Canada, southern Canadian regions of Ontario and Quebec. Total snowfall could actually be pretty impressive across some of these areas at close to a foot. Now, how does this correlate to our upcoming system? And it does, to a certain extent. So notice while this thing is still pinwheeling away across the eastern United States, what it does very well is keep cooler air in. Notice that we can't develop any sort of a southwesterly flow. There aren't any strong high pressures across the southeast, none of that. So this cold air, it gets re-pulled in by this system because notice it's further west now, or sorry, in 48 hours than it is now. And that is very odd for the US, as systems usually travel west to east, not east to west. And this thing will be, well, quite frankly, moving westward for quite a good time. And with all that snow, it's blowing cooler in here, so this results in some anomalies that are pretty chilly. Now, while that is going on, we have a system moving in towards the northwest. Notice showers, storms across Oregon, but at the same time, we also have a tropical storm. I think this was probably a hurricane, maybe even a hurricane on landfall. 950 millibars, that's pretty strong. Won't impact the U.S. directly, but what it does do is send a surge of moisture up towards the north. We do start getting a high pressure developing across the southeast. It's a very weak one, but what this does is, combined with that flow from the northwest, it creates this little alley of moisture. And obviously, you don't really need much moisture in addition because we have this giant tropical system. So that alone brings enough moisture across the southern United States. But it opens up the gateways here. And notice this system obviously brings rain and snow from the mountains to northwest through Wednesday and Thursday. But already out ahead of it, it's still, again, pretty well into the Rockies. It's already producing moisture and precipitation across Iowa, Illinois, with the backside of it producing snow across Yellowstone to Bitterroots and to portions of Montana and the Dakotas rain. So that is that, and this is already by early Thursday, late Wednesday, so this isn't even that far out in time, right? And the models have been pretty consistent about this for a while. So notice quite a bit of heavy rain for Florida, the southeast, and again, all models show this system slightly differently, but overall, I would say they're in fairly good agreement. It's not like if one model shows a completely different setup. They all show a relatively well put together system. Notice there could be some very heavy snow according to GFS across Wyoming, where it's cold enough, some heavy rain as well, as this thing almost stalls out for quite a while. It's a slow moving system, and again, this far reaching brand of precipitation is actually going to be pretty heavy, as warm air from the south and that still very stubborn cool air from this system from the north, it produces kind of like a little baroclinic zone, and this pretty much soaks all the moisture out of the atmosphere a lot more effectively than it otherwise would have. Notice these showers peter on and go about back and forth, but we finally see a bigger storm put itself together. This thing's finally moving out onto the plains, and notice that there could be quite a bit of heavy rain with this. Also severe weather with this cold front. Now this is just one model rendition. Other models show this thing going further south. So if you're a trucker driving across I-80, say north to south or west to east, this thing will definitely be something that's going to interfere with you through Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and even early on, especially across the northwest, but also along the south. I mean, there could be some very, very heavy rain across Florida and say the southeastern United States there. So notice the GFS takes this system and it brings it up towards into the Great Lakes. Again, coast to coast. This rain doesn't stop at the Midwest. It brings more rain towards the Northeast, which is already seeing quite a bit of heavy rain right now, and it has quite a cool wet season. And just like our current system, this thing takes a while to clear out. Notice strong easterly winds. There could be some lake effect showers again of rain on this time the western shores of the lake. A high pressure coming in from the north, and we have more cool air that comes in, and not as cool as say this this cool mass was, but you can see it's definitely not going to be warmer than average for the eastern half of the United States once this storm system leaves. And in the future, you can see the GFS takes up another system from the north there. We see a lot of snow in the Rockies. This potentially, I'd have to look at the thermodynamics of this thing and analyze it further. Potentially a severe weather event, the GFS shows. This one's far out, obviously, but nonetheless, it's interesting. And again, a very strong storm for fall with a really powerful cold front, a pretty well centralized low pressure and some cool air behind it. Again, not really cold enough to produce snow, but it's definitely going to have the feelings of a winter storm. So yeah, very active pattern, and you can see further on maybe a more significant cool down coming. We'll have to wait and see for those. But in the meantime, with this first system, quite a bit of precipitation will fall. And notice that it begins across the northwest, right? And the GFS huddles it more towards the north, across the upper Midwest and into the northeast and southeastern Canada, as well as that southern United States strip of moisture, and kind of in between is a little bit drier. So this system doesn't fully connect to the south, but again, all it takes is a little bit of a difference in these modelings, and maybe those two could merge. So again, let me show you the European now. This is a different model. Notice there's our current system right there, still pinwheeling across the northeast, really moving very far west compared to where it is now. And again, it keeps a lot of that cool air there. We do start seeing the high pressure develop across the southeast. Very weak, but it is enough to stir some of this moisture from this decaying tropical storm into the United States and slow it down, and it brings kind of these gates of moisture up to support this system, which again by itself probably wouldn't be as strong. Notice it is getting kind of torn up here, but it's still well into the mountains, and there's already moisture coming out from this. Notice from this warm air here, warm and moist air from the south, and it is cool air kind of from the north, and this is creating a classic warm level of action setup where we have moisture clouds pooling kind of under that cool air from warm air rising from the south, and this produces some showers. Again, those could be pretty downpouring rains, and they could be there stationary for a while. So notice again, a key element is this mass of precipitation, not a tropical storm, but a mass of precipitation towards Florida southeast. That's definitely going to impact you folks there. That's going to be a lot of rain, several inches possibly, and that's going to move out. And again, that's still kind of like the sideshow, as this thing is just pinwheeling across the United States, completely almost flat. Notice the European is a little bit further south than the GFS, but just waves of showers and storms for Illinois, Iowa. The Midwest does need rain, so this is definitely not bad, but I'm more concerned about the Northeast with the flooding. But even where it is dry, it could have an effect like a dry sponge. It doesn't really absorb water. A bone-dry sponge, and water kind of just runs off of it, so this could lead to some pooling if these rains are significant enough. And then notice this thing takes on a classic comma shape behind it. There's that cold front. Again, there could be quite a bit of severe weather with this thing, and then it moves on through the United States with some pretty strong winds as well on the backside of this. The Northeast again, kind of once it hits that coast, it starts re-strengthening. That's a lot of moisture there, and you can see it stalls out for a few days, so that could lead to more further flooding there. Yeah, a lot of characteristics with this that will be more attuned to a winter storm, so that is definitely interesting. And you can see this thing kind of pinwheels out of here by 2 weeks from now. So Monday, not this upcoming one, but the next one. And you can see there's some remaining moisture kind of residing there. And that's as far as the European model goes. Total quantitative precipitation forecast through the next 10 days. You can see a lot, especially across here, Iowa into Nebraska, 2, 3, 4. And this is, I mean, this is an incredible amount of rain to be projected on the central United States by a global model. This isn't some high-res version model, right? So if they're showing widespread area 4, 5, 6, there are going to be localized pockets of probably 9, 10 inches of rain if this forecast were to come true, which is definitely a possibility. Notice northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, 3, 4 inches of rain. There's some pretty bad drought here, so this isn't all bad news, but I would say this is kind of bad for the Northeast. They've had a lot of rain and, additional rain amounts of rain, so for the next 60 hours with this first one, there's going to be some rain, but then that next one could really bring in additional rain. Notice across the south, also very heavy rain. It would be nice if this was a bit further north, as there is very bad drought across a lot of the southeast, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas. But, it could still shift north. It doesn't seem like it will for now. I'll keep you guys obviously updated. But in the areas that do see that rain, I mean, there could be areas that see 4 or 5 inches plus of rainfall. We are at the time of the year where we do start looking at snowfall, and you can see that there will be some mountain snow, especially in Colorado. Definitely not anything record-breaking, but a snowstorm nonetheless, potentially up to a foot in some areas. The GFS shows something similar, probably even more, and further up north, again, as I said, with that model, shows almost 20 inches there, 30 inches in central Wyoming. That's the noon model one. The evening one, though, you can see pretty consistent with that, and shows even a little bit in Nebraska. Canadian model is also a third model I look at. You can see it's more of kind of the GFS version with that northern projection of snow, but again, it's unique in its own perspective, and its precipitation shield or precipitation footprint in terms of just liquid, you can see is also pretty significant, but it brings it more kind of further south, and it stretches it more into Iowa, Illinois, and again, pretty heavy rainfall, 4 to 5 inches of rain, especially that northeast looking concerning, and look at Florida, the southeast there. So several little kind of events going on here. These two won't necessarily play in together, but they do correlate into what they do, so it's definitely important to keep an eye on those two. Right now across the United States, not much going on. Notice there are a lot of flood areas for the northeast. They've been wet, and this past system hasn't helped. Notice this was today. They just got like several inches of rain, and again, if that system comes true, this could be another easy 2 to 3 inches on top of what they have. Florida, the southeast, you guys aren't necessarily, I don't think, dealing with too much flood concerns here, but, that heavy rain could definitely put some strain on that. And in the northwest, we'll start seeing some of those showers infiltrating through, and, that's where that storm begins. I'm just kind of going through random areas, trying to see what they show. Yeah, cool wet weather into next week, definitely some valley rain and mountain snow. So that's basically it. That's all I wanted to show you for now. I can't really show you any high-res models. They're still way too far out for any of this. They just show that system beginning to move in there onto the northwest, and, this thing takes a lot longer to play out. Here's a GFS, again, just kind of showing what this looks like. Again, look at those showers well ahead of this system, which is going to play into that heavy rain factor. Massive slug of moisture across the southeast, and this thing just chugs and drops a lot of snow according to the GFS into Wyoming. If I were to pick a preference right now, I would probably choose the European. It's been a bit more consistent, but I do believe the GFS was the first model to show this system, so I can't really disregard that one completely. And yeah, just look at that system. Very, very winter-like, and again, we'll have a lot of cool / interesting characteristics to it, which we'll definitely have to kind of pay attention to. Makes me a little nostalgic waiting for those first winter storms. I'm just like that, I like winter. So that is that. And I'll catch you all guys in the next episode. That's basically it for today. Thank you for watching. Bye.